The war was over. Humanity had been freed from the yoke of Advent's shadow, but freedom did not heal wounds. For many, the battles lived on in memory. Among those broken survivors was a man named Daniel. Daniel had been a soldier once. His childhood had been marred by a cold home, neglect, and a violence that shaped the way he thought of himself. The war had not made him strong. It had shattered him further, leaving his mind a raw, unquiet place. He found himself unable to reach for others without fear, and unable to accept touch without shame. His loneliness clung to him, no matter what he did or where he went. And yet, he sought help. That was how he met Ceris, a viper. Vipers are reptilian humanoids bred by Advent to fight for the aliens. They had been left in a strange place after the war. Some were executed, others went into hiding. But Ceris was different. She defected before the final battles, and she had dedicated herself to something gentler. They poured her heart into learning about therapy, care, and healing others. Unlike the savage stereotype humans whispered about, she carried herself with patience. Her voice was always a low, calm tone. Her patience described her manner as maternal. Her scales glistened emerald with streaks of pale gold, and her piercing yellow eyes had softened over time. She was capable of holding sorrow without judgment. Daniel became her patient, and slowly her friend. Daniel sat across from Ceris in her quiet therapy den, a space she had painstakingly made her own. Once, she had lived in Advent sterile facilities, with their bright white corridors and cold steel walls. Now, her den was draped in cloth. The dim lighting softened with bioluminescent fungi she had coaxed into growth in clay pots. Coiled pillows lined the floor rather than human chairs, and a faint scent of lavender and reptile musk hung in the air. This was the warm, comforting environment she wanted to create for her patients. Daniel's fingers tapped against his knees. He looked small here, hunched and drawn into himself, as though he were trying to fold away his existence. His face had the hard lines of someone who had carried too much pain, too early. Ceris's tongue flicked back and forth as she studied him. She had the patient stillness of her kind, the serpentine calm that could wait out silence without fear. But her eyes, those golden, unblinking eyes, were soft with something unusual for a viper. She had compassion. Daniel focused in on her sensual tongue flicking around as she looked at him. He couldn't help but feel a sense of arousal at the way it slithered in twirling circles around her mouth. "You are restless today," she said at last. "What lies beneath?" Daniel snapped out of the fantasy that had started in his mind. "It's something I've been thinking about for weeks. I wasn't sure I could say it. You'll probably think I'm insane." Her coils shifted slightly, curling tighter beneath her as she leaned closer. "Daniel," she murmured, "you should know. There is little that can frighten me. Speak. Whatever it is, I will not turn you away." The words unlatched something in him. He took a strong sniff of the air around her. She was close enough for him to sense the smell of her skin radiating into his nose. "I never had safety. Or love. Not as a child, anyway. My father was, well, he drank. He hurt us. My mother, well, she wasn't there. No one ever tucked me in. No one ever told me I was good, or safe, or loved. I grew up empty." His voice cracked. "I don't know what it feels like to be wanted." Ceris's heart ached. She had heard stories like this before, but Daniel's pain had always seemed deeper, and that intrigued her. Her tongue flicked again as she tasted the air of his emotion, sour, heavy, and real. He looked up at her then, and the request spilled out. "I want to go back. To when I should have been safe. I want to try your regression therapy. To be younger than a child, just for a while. To feel like I have a mother. And his throat worked, his face burning red. "I want to be inside of you. And not like in a perverted way, I want you to keep me inside you. My whole body. I want to feel your warmth and love. I've read about your kind. How your bodies stretch. How you can reshape your insides. I want you to make a place for me. Like a womb. I want to enter through you and be kept in your belly. I want to rest inside you. I want to feel your warmth envelop me and make me feel safe. I want you to be the mother I never had. The room went silent, but for the faint hum of the fungi lamps. Cerise did not recoil, though her body shivered with a ripple that ran through her coils. The request was unthinkable for a human therapist, but she was no ordinary being. A viper's physiology was elastic, their stomachs and abdominal canals able to swallow prey whole. She had once used it as a weapon, but to use it as sanctuary, to use it to heal rather than destroy. Her claws pressed lightly against her abdomen. She remembered the emptiness of her own past. She, too, had been born not from nurture but from vats and programming. She had never known what it was like to cradle or to be cradled. Yet now, staring at Daniel, she felt something unfamiliar but undeniable. She felt the desire to provide what had been denied them both. "What you are asking is a lot," she said. "It is dangerous and unnatural. I am a viper and you are a mere human. And yet, perhaps it is the most natural thing of all. You want to begin again. You want me to be your first home." Daniel lowered his gaze, shame radiating from him. "I shouldn't have said anything." "Daniel." Her voice cut through his thoughts. He looked up to see her leaning close. Her golden eyes met his. "If you trust me," she whispered seductively, her tongue brushing his cheek like a fleeting kiss. "I will do this. I will give you the childhood you deserved." He closed his eyes, enjoying the sensation of her tongue moistening the skin on his cheek before speaking. "You mean it?" "I do." Her coils loosened slightly, inviting him closer, her big bosom chest rising with a deep, steadying breath as she pulled him into contact with her cleavage. "I have swallowed many in my life, but none with tenderness, none with love. Let me be your womb. Let me carry your pain until it dissolves." Daniel's eyes watered as his pants got slightly tighter. Multiple emotions arose in his body. Cerise reclined among her cushions, folding her long coils into a spiral. The air between them grew heavy with anticipation. Daniel knelt beside her, heart hammering in his chest. He had asked for this, but now that the moment had come, his body shook with equal parts terror and longing. Could he really let himself do this? Could he truly give himself over, body and soul, to her full control and keeping? Cerise sensed his hesitation. She extended a hand and cupped his cheek, guiding his gaze to her own. Her eyes had a hypnotic warmth that calmed Daniel's soul. "No fear," she murmured, her voice a soothing hiss. "I will not harm you. You will not be lost. You will be found inside of me." He nodded. "I trust you." Her coils loosened, spreading an invitation. Then, she drew one hand down the length of her abdomen. Her scales parted just enough to reveal the smooth, pale underbelly where her navel rested. Unlike a human's, hers was subtle, a small fold of flesh half hidden by the long planes of her serpentine torso. She pressed her claw gently against it. Daniel's eyes widened with arousal at the beautiful sight of her body. And before Daniel's eyes, the flesh began to yield. Her belly button dilated, the skin stretching outward, soft pink folds unfurled. A faint wet sound accompanied the movement of her skin rubbing against itself. There was a gentle suction as warmth spilled outward from the opening. It glistened with wetness as a living gateway into her depths was opening. Daniel gasped, "It's beautiful." Cerise gave a hiss that was a mixture of half a laugh and half a purr. "Come, my baby boy," she coaxed. "You should not stand in the cold world when warmth awaits you inside of me." He reached out with trembling fingers and touched the opening. It was softer than he expected. It was so smooth and soft and inviting. He put 2 fingers into the opening to test the environment before engulfing himself into the wet opening. It felt like the warmest, softest, smoothest lips he had ever felt, and it pulsed faintly against his skin, alive and eagerly inviting him to step inside. He pressed harder, and the flesh yielded, gripping his fingertips with a gentle suction. Sarissa's body jolted. Her coils quivered, and her tongue flicked out sharply as she let out a big moaning sigh. "Ah," she hissed, her voice breaking. "You feel so good, but you tickle me." A shudder passed through her bouncing chest, rippling down her length as she twitched from the sensation. The sensation of him nudging through her navel was intimate in a way she had never known. She relished it, eyes half-litting in quiet pleasure. Encouraged, Daniel leaned forward with anticipation. His hand slipped inside, then his arms, until his shoulders pressed against the rim. The passage tugged at him eagerly, wrapping snugly around his torso. The walls pulsed with wet warmth, drawing him deeper inch by inch. Each movement sent shivers racing through Saris. She let her head fall back, fangs glinting as she let out a low, unrestrained moan. So small, so gentle, you feel absolutely divine. Her claws clutched at her coils as she rode the tickling pleasure of his entry. Daniel closed his eyes as he pushed further in with his body. The sensation was overwhelming for the both of them. The embrace of her tight viper body was hugging him tightly, the wetness sliding across his skin. The steady sound of her heartbeat caused Daniel's heartbeat to slow, to match hers in rhythm. Her body felt so welcoming, a sensation that Daniel had not felt before in his life. For the first time in his life, he felt wanted by someone. His waist slid through, then his hips. The bulge in his pants had gotten so big by now. He struggled to get his legs inside of her. Saris tightened her body, gently sucking the rest of him inside of her fully. The passage gripped firmly, tugging him along until, with a wet, sealing sound, the opening closed behind him. He was fully inside. Saris gasped sharply as the last of him vanished. Her coils tightened involuntarily. Her shirt could barely contain her large bosom rising and falling in rapid breaths. "Yes, he is fully inside of me now," she whispered, one hand resting over her belly. She felt him there. She could feel his movements and his weight. Her scales were flushed with warmth. What had once been an act of predation now felt like something sacred. Sarissa's body sensually eased Daniel deeper toward the womb she had crafted for him. The walls kneaded softly against his body, massaging away the last of his tension as if reassuring him, "You are safe here." And as he pressed his cheek to the warm, pulsing walls, Daniel let out a final release of ecstatic energy within her. And then a single, shuddering sob. Daniel drifted further into her. As the last pressure of the tunnel fell away, he found himself surrounded by an expanse both close and vast. Sarissa's body had reformed around him, not as a predator's stomach, but as a womb-like sanctuary, a place no human was ever meant to see. The walls of the womb were pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Their surface was smooth and yielding to his every touch, but pressing back with the steady insistence of embrace. The air was heavy with warmth. Each breath he drew carried an intoxicating sweetness that felt nourishing, as if her body wanted him to thrive. The womb rocked a slow rhythm like a cradle being swayed. It wasn't random. Saris was doing it intentionally, swaying her coils in the den to simulate the motion of rocking a child. Daniel pressed his palm against the wall. It responded by pressing back, wrapping a pliant fold of flesh around his hand, holding it as a mother would hold a child's tiny fingers. The gesture broke something inside him. Tears spilled down his cheeks. "I never had this," he whispered, though he knew she could feel every word through their shared connection. "No one ever held me. I don't know how to feel this." Sarissa's hand pressed gently against her belly, where he lay. She closed her eyes as his emotions flooded through her body. His pain and yearning resonated inside her own emptiness. She too had been made, not nurtured. She had never known what it was like to be wanted for more than war. And yet here, with him inside her, she was learning what love was. She hissed low and soothing, her voice vibrating directly into the womb. "SSSHHH, my baby. Feel it now. Take it all. What was denied, I give freely." Her womb seemed to respond to her words. The wall started to release a golden warmth that spread across Daniel's skin. Daniel curled up, pulling his knees to his chest, letting himself be small. For once, there was no shame in it. He pressed his cheek against the wall, listening to the throb of her life surrounding him. And then it came, the first memory. He was 5 years old, standing in a kitchen with his parents arguing. He remembered shrinking in a corner, wishing desperately for someone to hold him, to tell him it wasn't his fault. That wish had never been answered. Until now. The chamber pulsed gently, hugging around him, then rocking him as though it knew. He sobbed into the walls, and Sarissa's womb accepted his tears without judgment. For every memory that rose, the loneliness, the shouting, the sting of a belt, the uncomfortable silence afterward, the womb provided warmth and embrace, both physically and emotionally to Daniel. Time slipped away. In her womb, Daniel laughed at the sheer absurdity of feeling joy. He let the walls hold him tighter, let the warmth flood into him, and he let himself dissolve into Sarissa's care. Something inside him healed. The emptiness that had lived in his chest for as long as he could remember was slowly being filled. Meanwhile, Sarissa pressed both her hands to her belly, her eyes wet with tears. This was something rare and strange for a viper, as they were not known to shed tears. By now her body was responding to Daniel being inside of her as if she were actually pregnant. Her breasts swelled to double their size, as milk was slowly lactating out of them drop by drop as they swayed left and right with each of her movements. For the first time since her creation, she felt something even more terrifying and beautiful blooming in her chest. She was feeling love. It wasn't the type of love a mother felt for child, and not the type that a therapist felt for her patient, but something deeper. Inside, Daniel whispered, "I finally feel wanted." And Sarissa, shuddering as his words vibrated through her very flesh with loving waves of pleasure, whispered back, "I want you so bad right now." Daniel could feel the tension in Sarissa's body as she longed for him. He pressed his palms to the warm womb one last time. "I think I'm ready to come back now." Sarissa's her hands traced over her abdomen, feeling him from within. She let out a deep, steadying hiss that was half reluctant, half proud. "Then I shall return you to the world. But know this, Daniel. You leave me different. You are no longer a burdened child, and I am no longer only a weapon. Together, we are changed." With that, her belly button began to open once more. The womb around Daniel contracted as though bidding him farewell. He pressed forward, crawling toward the light, his fingers sinking into the folds of Sarissa's flesh that guided him upward. Sarissa shivered at his movements, her coils tightening involuntarily from the passionate waves she was feeling for Daniel. Each shift of his body inside her drew out small tremors of pleasure and warmth that made her long tongue flick out against her fangs. "Ah, careful, little one," she hissed through a soft gasp. "You tickle me so much when you leave. I can't wait till you arrive again." His shoulders pushed through the passage first, emerging from her belly button with a wet, glistening slide, then his chest and his arms, as he pulled himself out into the cool den air. The opening hugged his waist tightly before releasing him in slow, slick increments, until at last his legs and feet slipped free with a soft, wet closing sound. He collapsed against her coils, damp with her warmth, panting, but smiling. His face was flushed, his eyes rimmed red from tears. Yet there was a light in them that had not been there before. The hollowed man who had first stepped into her den was gone, and in his place was someone reborn whole. Cerise curled her coils around him, forming a protective ring. She pressed her palm gently over the place he had emerged, feeling the lingering ache of absence, then rested her other hand against his cheek. Daniel leaned into her touch. "I feel so alive. I feel like I was wanted there. By you." Her breath caught in her chest. Few humans had ever seen a viper's eyes soften the way hers did now. She lowered her snout closer, hesitation flickering in her movements. She had shared her body with him in the most intimate of ways, but she wanted more. "I did want you inside of me. I love you." Daniel closed the gap first. Slowly, carefully, he lifted his face toward hers. She met him halfway. Their lips touched. His lips were warm and human, and hers were cool, firm, and alien. Their lips lingered as Cerise let out a hiss of contentment as her coils tightened around him with desire. When they finally pulled apart, their foreheads rested together. Daniel laughed softly, tears still on his cheeks. "That was my first kiss that felt real." Cerise's tongue was flicking out to brush his chin affectionately. "And my first kiss that was not born of hunger, only love." They stayed there, coiled together, man and serpent, whole in each other's arms.